See who wants to be silly. Who wants to be silly on a Monday morning? Trash. They didn't pick the trash up yet. You guys are mowing it. The grass before the freaking storm is.
We're in the same city, James.
Oh, back to go. The next town over is Salem. Literally like Salem.
Salem.
Yeah, like the one of those Salem. Yeah. It goes back that far. This is all the towns.
How did you find this area?
Yeah. Slow down. You'll make your road here. Make this drive.
Oh,
Yeah, slow down.
turn it in.
Go slow right here. Go on the side street. So yeah, you can see all the grass. All the grass is cut out here. That's crazy. They got it bad.
Oh,
They got it bad out here.
We're live. This is recording. We're good. Baxter, get out of the way. Thank you.
Baxter, go in.
Okay. So we were talking a little bit. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because I keep saying the Bronx.
You said the Bronx, and then everything blows up.
But look, even the dog shakes the Bronx. Okay, fine. Finally, we did a clean version of the Bronx.
Great. So
Oh, yes.
the story, yeah, the Bronx was a way to make you better, make you want to. It made me want to do more than just be there, you know, because going to school was difficult, and just being out with the guys in the street was difficult. So I had to find a way to stand out, had to do something. I didn't play basketball, I didn't play ball, anything. Just didn't. It wasn't in me to do. And my good friend Michael Connor was a really great drummer, and we put a band together. Did the band for, I don't know, 13 till 19. We were all both 19, and the band broke up. And then I needed something else to do. And I ended up going to audio school. A friend of mine got me a job not a job, got me placed in a school with the New School for Social Research in New York. Had an audio course. It was 1972. Took the audio course, passed it, and then ran around town trying to find work, find some place that would hire me. And I ran into this guy, Herb Abramson. Now, Herb Abramson is an interesting character. He was one of the primary people to put together Atlantic Records. It was him and Ahmet Erdogan, and he's the one that no one speaks of. Herb was the one no one speaks of. And he ended up putting a studio together after he was ousted from the company. He put his own studio together. It was called A1. He called it A1 because if you went to the phone book, it was the first thing you saw in the phone books. If you look for recording studios, A1 was the first thing in the listing. It was a room with some speakers and an old MCI board, and I went in there. I was hired on the spot, came in, and I was hired to be the assistant. Came in the next day, he had fired the engineer, and I was the engineer. Day one, walked in, no idea what the hell I was doing. I mean, I had the recording course, but you know, not even close. I mean, it was. He had a 8-track machine that was turned into a 12-track machine. We'll talk about that later as another thing. Okay. There's three there's three types of audio engineers. There's the recording engineer, who actually sits there and gets all the sounds and puts them on the tape and makes sure that all of it is working. And hopefully he can come up with a mix or a rough mix or some idea of what's going on and make it so that it's whatever it's supposed to be. Is it a palatable record? Is it something that's supposed to be for release? It could be, it's just or is it just a recording of a thing? So there's recording engineers, there's mix engineers. There's guys that mix and they sit down and they'll get the source material and then turn it into whatever is supposed to be a deliverable. We call it a deliverable. So you got movie mixers, you got film mixers for mixers, you got music mixers, you got live sound mixers. So those guys that get the source and then turn it into something that you can enjoy in whatever environment it's supposed to be. And mastering engineers take all those sources and then put them together so that they can be listened to as a piece.
So, like with mastering engineering or engineers, is it much more specific than like a broader? It seems like they would have a broader palette than a mixing engineer because
Right.
they're working with various things.
In the past, yeah, it used to be that you had it was more specific, mastering engineer, especially at the time when you had LPs. So that the mastering engineer was making it for that specific delivery medium. The medium was the LP. So you're limited by what that thing could do. So the mastering or cutting engineer was the guy that made this thing. The offset of that became the guys that were mastering for CD. So those guys sort of moved over, did CD mastering, and it was the same sort of environment, but your tools got broader. You got more leeway with what you could work with because you weren't limited by the vinyl. Vinyl, because of its type, you're limited in what you could do with it. Bass had to be dead center. Otherwise, you put it off to the side, you get this, the needle would pop out. It wouldn't play, So you had a lot more leeway once you got into digital, and then you still had to figure out how you were going to make it work, how you were going to make the digital master work against the LP, because if you had you're re-releasing stuff, people know the LP. So how are you going to make this match? Somewhat, not so much, volumetrically, as far as the loudness is concerned, because you can get much louder than you could on the record. But yeah, you had to work out. We had to find a compromise. A lot of it was, we had to go back to listen to the final masters and go, okay.
So it's kind of interesting because you had talked before, like you're in this transition of older content made in various formats, but now we're going into the digital age. And so sonically, what was that like?
Initially for us, it was hard because the formats that we're using was pulse code modulation. It was PCM was what it was called. And you take your analog and you turn it into this other thing. And it wasn't analogous to anything. It was a digital format that needed to be turned into an analogous thing. So it was a storage medium, it became the mixed medium, it did everything that you needed to do. And then we had to figure out how to make it work so that it sounded like the old one.
So the initial, process of, with digital was for storage more so than as a recording process?
No, for us it was for delivery. We were delivering those CDs. Remember, they were making the transition for CD delivery. We were going right from the analogs right to CD. So the first few releases were not great. So we're all learning by the seat of our pants. Okay, here we go. This is a Sony product. We went with the Sony format. The industry went with the Sony format, and it was limited to a 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, which doesn't work out to be any even number anywhere on the planet. So it was hard. It was hard.